Hi, I'm Mike Crab.
And I'm Laurie Schultz. Welcome to the show.
We'll have some caffeinated conversation.
And maybe some special guests along the way.
Who knows where the conversation will go? You're out for coffee with Mike and Laurie. Hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of Out for Coffee.
With Mike and Laurie.
Hi, Laurie. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing good, eh?
Right, what's going on?
The same old. It's busy. It's that time of year. Things are really starting to pick up.
Yeah.
Schedule is filling like crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's what you do, but you've done it to yourself. So I don't want to hear about it.
I was just gonna, can I finish? I was gonna say,
Yeah,
and I quite like that it's busy and there's things to do. So
nope, you've done it to yourself.
Noted. All right. Yes, I've caused myself
Sorry,
all this happiness.
I'm in scold mood.
When aren't you, though? Let's be real.
That's fair.
It's nice to see you on here. We got Rob with us in the background. How are you, Rob? Want to say hi? How are things?
Oh, yeah, I'm still lurking in the background here.
Yeah. I think Rob's hard at work doing something, but it's good to see you, Rob.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
I'll leave you to it. I'm not going very far, but I'll leave you to it.
All right. I'll call you when we need something Googled.
Rob's like the human herpes. You just never know when he's going to come back. He's there lurking in the background all the time.
Oh my goodness.
And every once in a while, he's just going to rear his head.
Okay, like are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Wait. Okay, yeah, I'm done.
No, you're done. Okay. Yeah. Laurie, I'm excited to chat with you today because we have a special guest joining us, don't we?
We do indeed. Again, this is a repeat customer. We did not freak him out too badly. Not too badly.
There's still time, eh?
There's still time. The day is young.
So who do we have with us today, Laurie?
We have our good friend, how do we put all this together? Okay, wait a minute. He's an author. He's a tattoo artist. He's a public speaker. He's an ordained minister. He's a former monk. He does all other things, I'm sure. What else am I missing? Ned Burwell, come out and tell me what I'm missing.
Well,
wait, there's limits there. There's limits.
Missing?
Yeah, there's
Sometimes
limits.
the bigger picture.
Oh.
And to see in kindness. I've been listening in on this intro that you have.
Uh-huh.
And, you're missing a little kindness towards your
I am not.
Michael.
I'm not.
Thanks, Ned. Finally, somebody in my corner. This is why Rob doesn't come on camera anymore because he's afraid to get it.
That's enough. All right, you guys are on your own. I've had enough of this.
Ned, thank you so much for joining us yet again. We had a really great chat with you last time, and I'm excited. Laurie and I are very excited to share with our audience what we've been up to with you since our last visit. So we'll get to that. But tell us, what have you been up to? What's new in your world, Ned?
Well, it's been a very busy time for me. I launched a novel, and that was pretty exciting for me. It was kind of like launching a book, like for the first time all over again. So I've got a new novel out. It's called The Unlikely Candidate, and it's a story based on an experience that I had. So it's a fiction novel, but it's based on true events. And yeah, it's been doing really well. It's getting stellar reviews, and so that makes me very happy that people are enjoying the book, and it seems to be taking on a life of its own.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. What a huge step for you, right? Like, I know you've been busy with lots of things, but way to go for continuing to grow that way and to, kindle your passion further for this. Like, I can tell that this is certainly something that you're invested in and you're certainly getting a lot out of. So way to go, Ned.
Mm-hmm. And other than that, I've done some public speaking. I spoke with a group of educators in Woodstock, and I've been doing lots of weddings. It's wedding season, so I'm often found at this time of the year standing in front of groups officiating.
Nice. That's good. That's a beautiful way to spend your summer months, eh?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. I want to swing back really quick to your book. Where can I find that?
It's on Amazon. If you type in Ned Burwell in Amazon, then all my books will pop up. I've got a little bit of a catalog going there now.
Awesome. So
exciting.
be sure to check it out. We'll share it on our socials as well too, so everyone can see your incredible work there. Well, so Laurie, do you want to share a bit about what parts of your summer might have looked like?
Well, the last time we met with Ned, once we shut her down and we were kind of off air, I would say, we had a little conversation about, hey, Ned, would you ever be interested in maybe doing a tattoo on video and maybe showing that process? And Ned was like, yep, no problem. Let's do it. I'm paraphrasing, of course, Ned. I'm not sure if those were your exact words. However, the sentiment is there.
I think if I have to might have been in there. So no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, see, Ned, this is where the kindness comes from. You just see part of it. Anyway, sorry, I'll just wipe some tears and continue. So we got together with Ned over the summer. I believe it was 3 different times. From June until the end of August or middle of August or whatever it was. And Ned has created a wonderful addition to my, I guess, my right shoulder blade and then some. Yeah, I have now the proud owner of a giant crow on my back.
So what I will do is we're going to share with our audience the finished result at the end of this video so that we can share a bit of the process of what this creation came to be, and see, you know, Laurie's stellar new artwork, compliments of Ned's hard work. So so Ned, I have a couple questions for you about this process, because as I mentioned last time, I don't personally have a tattoo, and I find it so interesting to see the process of how one goes about it. So our first meeting with you before Laurie had any work actually done was to sit down and do a consultation to talk about her vision and how you can kind of incorporate that. A consultation for you, like what are types of things that you consider when you're picking somebody's art?
Well, it's generally it's an information gathering session. I need to try to understand, what is it? Why did they show up? What do they want tattooed? What does it mean to them? And understand the symbologies that they're trying to bring out in their tattoo. So quite often in a consult, I'm listening very acutely, trying to read between the lines, not only listening to what they're saying, but rather picking up on my own intuition, picking up on what's between the lines. So the consult is an important step in the process of getting a custom tattoo.
So Laurie, when you sat with Ned, you wanted to, your goal was to have a tattoo covered, correct?
Yes.
So why do you want it covered?
Because I'm an idiot. So if I can elaborate, or maybe I don't need to, I don't know. People watching this show long enough, y'all know what's going on. Years ago, I got this, I was in Grand Bend. Don't do it. Just use me as some kind of a cautionary tale. I was in Grand Bend and I was flipping through a book. I had nothing really in mind, right? But it was one of those, I was in my early 20s. I need a tattoo in Grand Bend. Stupid. So I'm flipping through this book and I see this little tiny frog type creature. And it's like he's a frog, but he's kind of reaching with his one little frog leg there.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, this is small enough. It's inexpensive enough that I can afford it. Sure, I like frogs, I guess. So I put it on there. I don't have to look at it. Put it on there. And so he did. And then afterwards, I was, kind of looking in the mirror and had some friends looking at it, and they're like, what's that supposed to be?
Oh no.
Frog, right? It's frog. They're like, kind of looks like a bird shit on your back. I'm like,
oh no. Oh no.
Awesome. So that was not happy for me. Like, that was not a good time. Right. So then I went to somebody else. I don't know if it was the same place. Duh.
Oh no. Fool me once.
Slow learner here. Really slow on the uptake. And I said, you know what, look at this thing back here. I don't know what this is. Can you do something about this? And the guy's like, well, I don't really know what I can do, but what if I put like a little sun type thing around it? We'll incorporate the frog thing in the middle. Like, hey, whatever, man. Just fix it. So we fixed it and put that sun thing back there. And then ever since then, I've been looking, when I see that in the mirror, I'm like, oh, that was so stupid. Why
You
did
can
I not
still
choose?
see all the
Yeah.
regrets.
Yeah, you can see the frog in the middle and you can see the sun thing
Oh
around
no.
it. And you're
Right.
like, listen, what has happened? I'm so glad it wasn't something I could just see on the regular, right? But
Right.
I thought I gotta deal with this. And what better to do than a crow? You all know how I feel about the crow. And
Yeah.
who better to sort this out for me than Ned Burwell? That's not your purse, is it, Mike?
No, that's not my purse. It's nice, huh?
So Laurie asked for a crow. I kind of thought her idea was a little ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
So I come up with this instead, and I'm thinking more of that portion. Maybe just leave out that.
Right.
Yeah, because I think that suits her, mainly because her morning breath. I think they call her. Is it dragon breath?
I
in
can
the
hear
morning?
you.
Okay, so yeah, here's what I came up with for you, Laurie. But maybe we'll take out the owl and just do the. What? Crows are like.
That's a good cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what you wanted,
You know
right?
what, Ned? If you think that's what I should have, then that's what I should have.
Really?
I love it.
Okay. Stop freaking out.
I'm not freaking out.
Here's your artwork.
That was.
Oh.
Oh, this is a real one.
No, that's the real one.
That's more like it. Although the other was lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh,
love
Lori,
it.
that's right up your alley.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the nicest looking turkey I've ever
Yeah.
tattooed.
Come on, Thanksgiving.
Do you want to share a little bit about how you came to that design? Maybe how long a design like that might take you to create?
Well, with Laurie's, we're considering the body part that it's going on, so that sort of creates the shape of the design somewhat. And then I was trying to incorporate a shape that would cover what she has and not hang out of the design. So, and I find that the process itself, it's not one that I think about or one that comes through my mind. Rather, when I sit down to design a tattoo, it always has its own life. And so I never really know what it's going to look like until it's finished. And even after the line drawing is completed, I don't really know what it's going to look like after until I shade it. So, and I think that's the really interesting point for me, is that creativity sort of uses me, and it just kind of goes to and through me. And I think we might have talked about that throughout the session, or maybe even the first interview we did.
So using Lori's as the example, that kind of what she deemed the sun thing. there was these
Whatever
little,
it was.
there was these little kind of I don't know, sun, I don't know, the little things that kind of come out, squiggle out from the design a little bit, right? So it wasn't just circular, it kind of had little features sticking
Like
out.
sun rays almost.
There you
right?
go.
Like
That's
they were, yeah.
exactly. And so what's got to be particularly tricky for something like that would be to make sure that's all covered. And I did notice that when you had put the stencil onto Lori's shoulder, that you did have it lined up so all these little sun rays were actually falling within the branches and parts of the bird to be masked completely, like right to the edge. And it was really quite incredible to see how well you were able to camouflage that within the outlines of the design. Was really quite incredible.
All right. So these parts here, we'll just
take an X-Acto knife and we'll just cut that right out of there. We'll just
Deal.
you just spoon it in, and then you just give it a good flick, and it'll totally get.
Put the lotion on my skin, or else I get the hose again.
Yeah. Okay.
Buffalo Bill.
But other than that, I think she's gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Awesome.
So we sat down and you got to work. You put the stencil right on her there, and then we jumped right into it.
Mhm.
And so a question for you, Laurie, how was the process in terms of like how did it feel?
Well, the first session, that was I guess it was the outlining. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. It hurt. It certainly didn't hurt like I was gonna throw myself off a bridge or anything, but some spots hurt more than others. But for the most part, it wasn't too bad.
How's that? No.
Oh, I have a very low pain tolerance. I should have told you that.
Almost done.
Ned, would you disagree? Was Laurie a good client to have, or was she? How was working with Laurie for you?
She was a client for sure. She was very safe. She sat the whole time.
Right.
Not
in the
always
position
still.
I wanted her, but
Oh
I
man.
hear you. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I am the world's biggest baby. So, what can I say?
yeah, there were many cuddle breaks. Just stop and hold her and just reaffirm everything's going to be okay.
It's gonna be okay. It's going
It's
to
going to
be
be
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
Cuddle
just fine.
breaks.
Yeah, well, it was, and it's interesting too because you can from just watching, right, you can tell when you would get to certain portions of the part of Laurie's back where you could tell she would wince a little bit more. So it's amazing how just moving, a quarter inch to the right can sometimes be enough to hit just in the wrong place where it feels a little bit more uncomfortable than it did in others. So it was very interesting. So is there is there anything that you need to consider when you are covering a tattoo? What are some of the things you need to take into consideration?
Well, the design that's already tattooed there, you have to understand how that's going to interact with what you're doing over top of it. I think there's a lot of considerations as far as how to cover it properly. Quite often in the past, the tattoo artist would go really heavy over where the tattoo used to be, but that's sort of the wrong way to approach it. So the first step on the first session that we tattooed Laurie, we put the outline on, and that was just the beginning. And I can't remember if we did a little bit of shade that session, but generally the next phase is that we're shading it and bringing a balance of tone through the piece. So where the old tattoo lays in the tattoo, we want to shade more heavily outside of where the old tattoo's not, bringing like a balance. So it's important when you're doing a cover up to create a tonal balance so that the whole thing has a certain tone to it. If the old tattoo in the middle of the design becomes a dark spot, then it just screams cover up.
Yeah.
So, and then understanding what the limitations are of how this is going to cover. Quite often we have to use gray pigment to cover tattoos. Color, most artists use color to cover them, and then which colors you're going to use will your palette is a little bit more limited in a cover up situation. The warmer colors are going to be more transparent.
Right.
So they will show through, what's there will show through. So typically, if you're doing color in a cover up tattoo, a cool palette is a lot better for the covering aspect. Now, myself, I don't do color work, so I'll typically do gray pigment, which is different than gray shade. Gray shade is black ink that's thinned out,
Okay.
Gray pigment is actual gray ink.
Oh,
So it's white pigment, and then you've added black to it, or I buy pre-mixed pigments, all different shades of gray. So
interesting. May I ask why you prefer to not to not use colors and prefer to stick to blacks
yeah,
and grays?
I never really enjoyed doing color work, and the the general population, well, a lot of people don't understand color theory. So I would find that I was constantly being asked to create color scenarios in people's tattoos that didn't work in the color wheel.
Right.
And I find that if you merge outside of the color wheel, then it's not as pleasing to the eye. So, you know, and it's always about what the customer wants, but there also is an element that if you know if you're a composer and you're helping somebody create a song, like you're not going to put the wrong notes together because it sounds awful. Well,
Right.
colors vibrates, and if you put the wrong colors together, it just doesn't. It puts stress on the optical nerve, and it just doesn't. There's something off about it. You can feel they don't go together. It doesn't work together. But when you have two colors that are equally spaced, or a palette of 3, 4, 6 different colors at a time, if they're properly spaced in the color wheel, they create what's called spectrum balance.
Right.
And so there's a lot of technical, and I wouldn't say it's that technical, but there's a little bit of understanding on how color works. But
Right.
you know, and I just got sort of, I was sold out on the idea of, you know, explaining this in detail with people, and when they wanted kind of wacky color schemes. And then the other reason they just don't hold up as well. I I have 30 years in the industry, and it doesn't mean that I'm the best or I know the most, but I have more experience than most.
Right.
That's what that equates to. And so with that experience comes an understanding of how things age, how the body changes, how the tattoo changes with the body. And by watching my work that I did 25, 30 years ago, and then I see the difference between color and gray shade tattooing, gray shade is a superior form of tattooing. And color is great though. Like I get why people enjoy it. It's just it's very inferior compared to a black and gray tattoo if you stack it against one that's 25, 30 years old.
Right. Wow. Well, interesting. I think your work certainly speaks for itself too, and to see the proposed result and the finished result and how amazing you did to sticking to it, and through really creating depth and detail
Mm-hmm.
with a monochromatic color tones, it's quite incredible to see, and to be able to witness you doing this. Like, that's one thing that I'm glad I was in the chair I was, and not Laurie's chair, because I could see what you do throughout the process, and how into it you get.
Given that we got a little bit of shade in there, that's great. I'm happy with.
Oh,
Was that cold or
Yes.
just tingly?
cold. Do I need to go and buy some Vaseline now?
No, we're gonna give you what you need.
Now, one thing I did find you were really good at was keeping the conversation flowing as we were working. You really let Laurie know you're there, right?
I think that's important to be with the client, and I'm so sensitive, and I feel like, so I know there, when Laurie was having, like, there were parts of the tattoo it was painful for her, and rightfully so. We're tattooing her, but so during those moments you sort of, you just kind of take a little bit more time, rub the skin a little bit more, try to bring more like softness and compassion into the session. But then storytelling is powerful. There's so much power in telling a story. So I have lots of stories in my arsenal, and and I quite enjoy, just distracting the client away from the experience sometimes when it gets a little too intense.
And that's the actual true experience. Because pain is going to fade, right? This is why mothers keep having children, is because pain fades, but
Yeah.
the memory of the experience is what will last. And how you feel while you're there, and the conversations you have, and I don't know, I think we had a really good time. We listened to some tunes, we had Alexa going, little sing along. Mike refused to do karaoke.
I didn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
No, Mike's
Not on the
Mike's
spot. You can't put me on the spot. It's not going to happen.
Mike's too good for impromptu karaoke. Mike has to plan his karaoke.
I only
Yeah.
sing for cash or something silly that Laurie would probably say.
I only do encores for cash.
Nobody waved a 20 in my face. It wasn't happening. So,
Wrong
No, 'cause
venue,
it's just a
Mike. Wrong
flat
venue.
out no. Like when I asked him, I remember why did he curl up in the corner and was crying and stuff? Like,
Because that's what Mike does, Ned.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
weird. That was really weird. But it's okay. It's okay to be weird. We're all weird, right?
Aren't
we're
we?
all a little weird, aren't we? We need to
Aren't
lean
we?
into it a bit. Eh?
But no, Laurie, I completely agree with you. The experience that's always been an important part to me. I do want to give people a really good experience, and sometimes it involves me being quiet and just present. Other times I'm telling stories, and other times we're just playing good tunes. But I often find myself in a lot of the sessions that I do, I find myself listening to people, because aside from being able to tell a story, I think it's just as important to be able to hear people's story, because hearing people's stories has given me some of my greatest stories. Understanding others, and I think when we listen and we share, it builds a connection, and the connection in a tattoo experience is almost palpable. It's palpable in a way that I don't think other experiences stack up to it. There's a level of vulnerability that happens in the session, and I think that also helps and adds greatly to the connection that you and I have shared through doing that tattoo. It's a very sacred thing to me to put a tattoo on somebody.
Sure, there's an inherent level of trust as well that I would have in you, and then you would have in your own ability. It's the word vulnerable that you used, I think, is a really good word.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure in a lot of cases too, people are getting their tattoos done to either commemorate someone or a time or a memory, right? So, and some of those memories could both be positive, wonderful life moments, or maybe some tragedies that people have gone through as well. And they're using this as a medium to kind of express themselves and kind of take control over their story a little bit. And I think that by being able to just see you talk with Laurie and joke and talk life and stuff, that the comfort that you have with your client, that I'm sure those that are coming to you looking for that piece of heart, that by you listening and doing those things you're saying, right, I'm sure that really makes it a wonderful moment. And should they be looking for closure or something like that, right, it helps when they can share their story while you're doing the work. It kind of brings it all full circle and makes it very meaningful. So I'm sure you see and hear a lot of very beautiful things while you're working.
I do. I really do. And if I am doing memorial work, I typically want to hear about the person who's passed, or if it's a pet, I want to hear about the pet. Tell me some stories about it. And it's very common that when I do memorial work where loved ones have passed, that sometimes I just feel a presence in the room, and it's happened more than once. Has been times when I've heard messages just randomly, just maybe a couple little words. I'm not psychic, and I'm very intuitive, but I'm definitely not a psychic. I'm not a medium, but there have been times when the connection between me and the client and that loved one becomes so strong that I sometimes just hear things, and that has happened during memorial work.
When that happens, do you share that with the people you're working with, or do you just feel it you're on your own and you recognize it?
Yeah, more so in the recent years, I would share if something came through, but that doesn't happen too often, but it has happened.
I bet it's
Yeah.
quite powerful when you experience that.
Yeah,
Very
it can be.
So what are you working on today, Ned? What's your plan?
Today is the last sitting. It's the final stage in the cover-up process. We, as you can see, the old one was in this vicinity. So what I need to do is bring a balance of so that this and this and this all kind of blends and matches.
Right.
So I'm going to be working with grays in through here, and then I'm going to continue the grays go in both directions.
Nice.
And that should complete the cover-up of the tattoo.
And how you feeling about it, Laurie? You're loving how it's looking, eh?
I love it.
Such a good one.
Yeah, it's great.
I have a question for you about the tools you use. Now, with Laurie, I believe you used two different. Do we call them tattoo guns? Is that what we call them?
Well, you won't shoot anyone with them, but
You will leave a mark, though.
yeah, it's funny. Traditional tattooers, they don't like the term tattooed gun. It's a
Okay.
tattoo machine. I personally, I don't care. It's whatever. Yeah. So this is the machine that I use for outlining. This is a traditional tattoo machine. It's coil. This little armature bar goes up and down, and then I use that for lining. A lot of my friends don't use these coil machines for lining anymore. They just use the pens. So this is a tattoo pen, and it has its own power supply, and the needles they're a cartridge and they fit into the end of the tattoo machine. So we barrier control bag the whole machine, and then you can put whatever size needle you want.
The biggest needle, look how big that one is.
Okay.
And this is typically like what I use, but this is
Right.
for full backs.
Oh yeah.
But again, I don't find the pens line as good as the traditional liners.
Right.
And because when I'm lining, it's a very, very fast process. I'm very focused, and I like to move when I'm lining.
I was amazed at how quickly you had that outline done. I wouldn't have believed it
Really,
if I
because it
wasn't
felt
there.
like about 6 years. So
It could have been longer, Laurie.
no, you know what? I was actually really surprised overall at how quickly everything went. Like the
Mhm.
first session, the outline session, it was like 2.5 hours. And
Yeah, that
I
adds
mean,
up.
it could have been done. I mean, obviously, I love what it is, but I think if there was somebody who wasn't as talented as Ned, could have done something like that on somebody's back, and they would have been like, "Okay, I'm done."
So I said this the day of when we were kind of wrapping that first session up, that somebody who is not very familiar with tattoos at all, to see something like that, I'm like, that's a full tattoo. Like, it looks
Yeah.
incredible. So my brain was going on like, okay, well, what else can he do? I know he has shading to do, and I know we can still see the original. Like, I know he's got work to do, but on its own, it was really great. So as you were working more, Ned, and starting to add the shading in, it really developed it and helped it come to life.
Mhm.
The two machines that you used, so that first one you used for the outlining, it was quite noisy.
Mhm.
Like, it was noisier than Laurie. So
Yeah. So
Well,
that's
what does
like
that tell you?
on a Richter scale for sound. Is there a sound Richter? What's a sound scale?
Rob would
Rob.
know something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what
Rob, what's the sound scale called?
Yeah.
From zero to-
Decibels.
From
Decibel,
zero
yeah,
to
that makes
Schultz.
sense.
Yeah. How many
So-
decibels would you think Laurie is on the average?
Careful, Rob.
Well, it's somewhere, I'm going to say north of 1,000, but south of 2,000. So let's do that.
Okay.
Given that, by the way, given that a 747 jet is
Mhm.
160.
Okay, yeah. So this man is speaking wisdom right now. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for coming back in and with that.
He'll get his. That's fine.
Okay, so yeah, the first machine's louder than Laurie, so it's enough to deafen um a child or a small goat. Um, but the second machine it is very quiet. It's stealthy.
Yeah, I was amazed at how much it was, and it must be a little easier too, because the other one you had kind of the lining one you had cords kind of coming out of. Now this one it's all pretty self-contained, so it's looked easier to maneuver. Yeah, so would you say that was an average amount of time for you to do a tattoo of that? I felt like it went really quickly. Like you were slick.
Yeah, look, every piece is different. Like I tattooed like quarter of a back, like outlined half the back and then shaded a quarter of it in one session. So it was like probably two of Laurie's tattoos in one sitting of 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's a long time to sit for something like that.
Mhm. And then there's been tattoos that I was 4 hours just outlining them. So it really depends on the detail and how intricate it is. Every job's different.
So do you have any lasting memories? Was there anything going into Laurie's that you were like, were you excited to help her make this change, or were you worried about the complexities of, well, maybe it wasn't even that complex compared to maybe some stuff you've covered before? Was there any notable things about working with Laurie when you were going through the
Easy.
process?
Easy.
Oh, I know this one. I know this one.
What?
Pick me. Pick me. Pick me. No.
Yeah, I reached out to Rob for support after tattooing Laurie.
Yeah. You remember that
No.
comment about crying in the corner?
Yeah,
That was Ned the day he called me. He said, Laurie just left.
yeah. My tears met Mike's tears on the floor.
Yeah, I inspire a lot of support groups.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah.
No, but I think just having time to spend with both of you was really wonderful. And
It was a good time.
aside from Laurie's antics, and she's just such a beautiful person, and I love her. I think she's wonderful, and
Aw, I
I
love you,
can
Ned.
I can say the same about you, Mike. I just find that you're such a kind and genuine person. So
Thanks, Ned. Thank you very much. I would like to echo what you're saying about Laurie. She is lovely, isn't she? Well,
yeah,
we
But
appreciate
just
your
not kind.
kindness. You're lovely. I'm kind.
Yes.
I'm sweet. You're salty. We need both. I know.
yeah.
Makes the world go round.
No, but
I love.
go ahead.
Sorry, I love the humor, and life's not that serious of an event. There's very few serious moments that we actually really need to be serious. So
Right.
I'm
yeah,
with you.
Well, I
Yeah.
agree. We had plenty of good laughs while with you.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that you're felt the same way that we did as spending that time with you, Ned. It was time certainly well spent, and
For sure.
forever memories for me. I'm never going to forget those days of hanging out with you guys and taking it all in. So Ned, we can't thank you enough for your time and your the opportunity to spend this time with you and
Yeah.
your work on Laurie.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ned. It was an honor and a privilege to be in your chair.
Yeah.
Thanks for trusting me with the work, and it's an honor to do it for you.
Thank you. And tell us one more time about the book and where we can get it.
My new book, it's called The Unlikely Candidate. It's a novel about an experience I had in Mexico It's some pretty crazy stuff in there. I almost got abducted, had a mystical experience. I had a love interest, and yeah, I actually got really vulnerable in this book, and I talk about vulnerability frequently. I got very vulnerable in the sense that I was just sharing some of my deepest, darkest secrets, and yeah, I think that's what connects people to it, is the level of vulnerability of what my real thoughts were going through that process, being in a retreat for a very long time. But yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Just Google Ned Burwell on Amazon, and it'll pop up.
Excellent.
Well, that's great, Ned. So yeah, please check Ned out, check his work out, and grab one of his books. And it sounds like you got a lot to share within those stories. So check it out for sure. Ned, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on a continuing to bud career here. You're still growing and doing new things. Please keep it up. The world needs more of that. And thank you for sharing your kindness and generosity, not just with us, but with our audience and the world. So thank you for everything you do. And to our audience, thank you for coming out and joining us on this latest episode. And we will see you next time on Out for Coffee
With Mike and Laurie.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Do you have questions, comments, or ideas for a future show? Reach out to Mike and Laurie on their social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email us at mikeandlauriesocials@gmail.com.